Hey, Athon authors and fans. Excited to talk today with Victor Gischler, who has A Rumor of Kings released today. Our first fantasy in a while, actually. We have two other books today, one box set and one military sci-fi. So we're going to get started talking about those real quick. First, we have Acheron, the Complete Series by Rick Partlow, 4-book series. And this is military sci-fi. It got some great reviews, and now you get all 4 in one set. So give that one a look. I'll read through the description real quick. Sandy Holland is in trouble, the kind of trouble that gets people killed. On the run from cartel bounty hunters, she turns to the only one left in the galaxy who gives a damn, Ash Carpenter, her old wingman. She'd saved his life in the war, so he owes her and his ship, the Acheron, is the perfect way to pay off that debt. She wants to take it and get as far away as possible, but there's no way Ash is letting the Acheron go anywhere without him. So next up, we have book 2 in Grimm's War with Grim Resolve. Against All Odds was the first one in the series, and it did very well. I very much enjoyed it, and we interviewed him not that long ago, and so here's book 2. Jacob Grimm returns as CO of USS Interceptor just a few weeks after he graduated from command school. He's immediately sent on a rescue mission to the far side of Zuckerbar with no backup and dwindling supplies. When an unknown enemy cripples his ship on the outskirts of the system, the crew must come together and track their mysterious foe out into the unknown. So give that one a try. I'm not typically one to, I'm not a diehard fan of military sci-fi, but when I read Against All Odds, I absolutely enjoyed it. So give that one a look. And then next up, we have A Rumor of Kings, and Victor here to help just give a good description of what this fantasy, the first one in Athon's recent history,
Sure.
a good description. Thank you, Victor, for joining us. And by all accounts, this sounds like an amazing book, Kingdom of Ghosts. So can you tell us a little bit real quick about the world of Kingdom of Ghosts?
Well, it's book 1 of a new trilogy. Kingdom of Ghosts is the name of the trilogy, and A Rumor of Kings is the first book. It's a very familiar fantasy world. And we find ourselves in a place called the Scattered Kingdom, which is a loose organization of barons and dukes, and they don't have a king anymore because in their history, things kind of went south with the old king. And now they are, once in a while, a pretender to the throne will say, oh, I'm the true heir. And everybody's like, sure you are. We don't care about that. And in the middle of all that, we've got this protagonist, this fellow named Merrick Niles. And he's an opportunist, and he drinks a little too much, and he likes women a little too much. And he'd rather earn his living with some scheme than work hard for a living. And so he finds himself in possession of a map, which leads him to an ancient artifact. He just wants some treasure. But what happens is, as the result of a magical misfire, he now has 3 ghosts living inside his head. One is a jester, one is a wizard, and one is a warrior. And sometimes they help him, and sometimes they mess him up, and sometimes he can borrow their powers. But he finds himself suddenly in the middle of this scheme to put a new claimant on the throne, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. But like all reluctant heroes, he gets dragged along in the course of events, and is somehow a hero, even though he didn't ask to be.
Sounds like the perfect character backstory for a D&D campaign. It's like, you are now possessed by a jester, a wizard, and what was the third one?
The third one, I'm sorry?
What was the third ghost? You've got a jester, a wizard, and
a warrior.
And a warrior.
And a warrior. So if sometimes, for instance, I don't think this is a spoiler, but he finds himself in a battle and needs some sword skills, and in the nick of time is able to call on this ghost to sort of, the ghost kind of takes him over, but in a way our hero has control of the ghost. And so, but then sometimes he needs one of the ghosts to come help him, and the ghost doesn't show up. What we find out as we go along, though, is that there's this whole sort of ghost world parallel to the quote unquote real world. And the more Merrick gets involved with the ghosts, the more he finds himself in touch with this other world. But again, our hero Merrick doesn't wake up in the morning thinking, how can I help? He thinks, how can I get out of this mess?
Yeah, how can I get out of this situation?
Fate's not going to let him get out of it.
The hesitant / against not very heroic nature at all.
Yes, I'm sure. Not heroic at all.
So the magic system, is it a little more traditional fantasy, or is it sort of your own build as far as the magic system is concerned?
It's traditional in that you've got wizards that study a spell in a spell book, and then they can cast the spell. And Merrick has this wizard in his head and finds that he can do some magic. But then when he goes to look at a spell book, it almost fries his eyes out of his head because he's not studied that. He doesn't know how to do that. So he's got powers that he doesn't really should have. And sometimes he thinks right when he thinks he's got a hold of it, he finds out it's a little trickier than he thought.
Nice. I like that. So you've written many books in the past. Is there any one in particular? Is this your first one in the fantasy genre, or is this one?
I wrote some pretty well received Mage novels, and in which there are also traditional wizards, but there are also magic users. They have each new tattoo is a new power. Cool. So you get a tattoo called the Prime. It goes down your spine, and that sort of opens up, that unlocks things within the Mage. And then when the protagonist is a she in this one, there can be male Mages, but in this case it's a she. When she gets a new tattoo, it might be lightning bolts on her ankles that let her go really fast. I mean, it's almost like superhero powers, you know. Or there is something like a canary, this canary at her throat that she gets a tattoo. And when she says something, the weak-minded believe her automatically because she has this sort of songbird quality. So all different kind of tattoos. Some of the powers are subtle. Some of them are very straightforward. But as you can imagine, someone who's been an Mage for a long time might have tattoos all over their body, head to foot, and that's somebody with a lot of powers that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
Those books, those were my first fantasy novels.
Nice. I love that kind of stuff. I love the unique systems that is more like an artistic craft to get powers. And I've tried to incorporate some of that stuff into my writing as well as my D&D sessions and homebrew and stuff like that. So I absolutely adore that type of stuff, and runes and stuff like that. So I love anything original when it comes to magic systems. So I'll have to give that a check out as well.
Sure.
But A Rumor of Kings, any advice for, I think fantasy is a difficult, it's like there's a lot of fantasy stuff out there, but it's a difficult genre to write in because you are having to build out an entire world and system and almost mechanics and physics and stuff like that. So any advice for aspiring authors in the world of fantasy?
Well, first, read a lot. I mean, I think anybody would say that's good advice. Read a lot, know what's out there, know when it's time to embrace something familiar, to put the reader on comfortable ground. But you can't just do that. You've got to do something new. For instance, in Rumor of Kings, the magic, I think the magic is pretty traditional, except the way our hero uses it, because he's using it through these ghosts. So I go from a very comfortable, familiar place, but taking it to somewhere new. And I think that's where, if you're creating a world with chewing gum grass and skies of lemonade, that's all going to be very original, but and we want originality, but it's also going to be hard to get your mind around a little bit too. You got to be pretty skilled to put a person in that world, to put a reader in that world. And I like what I like to do is start from a very comfortable place, a fantasy world that we think is very familiar, but then drop in those new things that kind of make the reader say, whoa, this is new.
Keeping it grounded. And then, yeah, that's good, because I've always heard that if the reader can't imagine it, they're going to drop your book immediately if they can't.
Yeah. I just feel like, when we go to a brand new pizza place, we want a new dining experience, but we still want to recognize that it's pizza. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
So that's probably a kind of cheap way to describe what we're trying to do here as authors. But
that's really good, because if I go into a new pizza place, I don't want to taste the exact same thing as my favorite pizza place. I want a new flavor on the original. Otherwise, I would have gone to my favorite pizza place in the first.
Yeah, exactly.
But I still want pizza. So
yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna have to use that one. So tell us what's next. This is a trilogy.
This is a trilogy. I'm right in the middle of working on the other books. It's been very exciting for me. It's what's exciting for me is that working with, is it Aethon? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. Aethon. Just before I started working, I was still calling it Aethon or something like that.
Yeah, right. I want to say it right, And I just got a glimpse. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this. I got a glimpse of the cover for book 2.
Oh, yeah. And
that got me jazzed about my own book. I wanted to go back and write a better book to go with how good that cover was, So I'm working on that. I've always got some other stuff. I have a science fiction screenplay I'm working on. I'm working with some people. They're giving me notes, and so that's there too. It's kind of on the back burner while I'm grinding on these novels. But there's always something right in front of me I'm working on, then something I'm kind of half working on, then another thing way over there I wish I was working on, but there's no time. So there's always plenty of stuff.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. The writers that stay busy are the ones that normally take it to the professional level. So I'm glad to hear you have so many projects right now, and looking forward to giving a Rumor of Kings a read. So all the fans out there that have been craving a good fantasy book and haven't seen one recently because it's swamped with lit RPG, here's your chance. Give A Rumor of Kings, book 1 of Kingdom of Ghost, a look. And
out today.
Out today. So, and then book 2, I'm sure, won't be too far behind it. So very much looking forward to giving it a read. Victor, thank you so much for your time and your advice. It's good advice. So
I appreciate it. It's been fun. Thanks.
All right.